Hi everyone, this is Dima, your English tutor. In this video, let me help you a little bit to boost your skills of image descriptions in Duolingo. So Duolingo speaking, image description. You know, guys, if you have practiced, if you have trained for several tests, including Duolingo, IELTS or something, I can assure you that if you practice Duolingo speaking, it will help you in an indirect way to improve your speaking for any other test of English where speaking is involved. It's a guarantee. So even if you're not now preparing for Duolingo, I ask you to watch this video and it will be very helpful. One of the main reasons is that Duolingo speaking and writing is very concise and tense because they give you 1 minute like for this and so no, for this they give you 1.5 minutes and you really have to speak a lot in a brief period of time, and it will help you to produce more in all other tests. At least I have checked it several times in my tutoring career with my students. By the way, recently one of my students has got 140 for his Duolingo. He's a very intellectual guy, of course, anyway, and I was helping him to improve all his sections. Okay guys, so in Duolingo you're looking at this photo. Basically, at the real test you will see this photo better than we do now, but you know, those minor and micro details somewhere in the background, probably they're not even necessary for our success. So now let's please look at it and imagine how you would describe what you will describe. By the way, there is a very important point. Most of the teachers whom you probably look on YouTube about Duolingo or TOEFL or IELTS, they are marvelous teachers, but they are native speakers, you see. And I have been working as a tutor for more than 20 years of my life. And even I have had several students who, prior to our lessons, had lessons with native speakers. So the problem is what? The great plus of a native speaker is that his pronunciation, accent, mentality, thinking processes, which are formulated in English, it's beautiful, yeah. You will soak this mentality and probably it will help you. On the other hand, there is a great flaw, disadvantage that, you know, I'm from Ukraine and here we have some saying, some proverb. I will try to translate it into English. Something like a well-fed man cannot be a friend to a hungry man, you see? Why? Because they will not understand each other. They're thinking about different things. And the same thing happens in your English tutoring. As a non-native speaker, I understand your problems much better than those guys who have lived all their life in the United States. Yeah, their accent is better and probably my skills of speaking and writing are inferior to theirs, but you see, I can help you because I understand what it is like to be very strained when you have to speak something beautifully and you have some little time and you're stressed and you're non-native speaker, so you cannot speak so fluently as they do. So it's very good. So remember about this when you're searching for a tutor. So remember that native speakers, they possess both pluses and minuses. Okay, now let's look at this beauty. So in this, by the way, this picture is all of these pictures which I will show you, they are taken from real Duolingos, real. So people have talked about them. It's not just some picture from Google, and so it's very precious. There is even a probability that you can face this picture in your real test. Maybe it's like 1 to 1000, but it can be. Okay, guys, so what are the recommendations to do that? Of course, I think you will get the highest point if you just speak what you see. You see? So you see the man, you're describing the man. You see the background, you quickly describe the background. And if there is some action in this picture, I think it would be a good idea to describe the action. Obligatory, yeah, mandatory. The action is very important because action involves verbs, and verbs are the most important part of any language. In this case, the man is sitting, so there isn't much action here. We will say that he is seated, something like that. He is resting or reclined against the wall, something like that. Okay, you know, some guys, they, due to lack of vocabulary or something, they always describe clothes, even if it's not necessary. They always describe, let's say, the color of the background, but in this case it's monochromatic. Yeah, we cannot say the color. you understand? Imagine that you would be describing this picture, this photo, in your native language. What would you talk about? Try to imagine that your listener, he or she does not see the picture, so you want to draw this picture in his or her mind, and you want to draw it beautifully and perfectly. So what would you say? If you describe that he has like black pants or trousers, that he is big and the trousers look clean or not very clean, something like that, you will not have a very high point because you're speaking childishly, you see. Okay, let's make an experiment. I have not practiced describing this picture, so I will tell something and you will. By the way, yeah, also, I think he has some tattoos, yeah, but I don't see exactly. If, please, don't be afraid to say that probably, or I think, I guess, because maybe they're tattoos, maybe he's just, his skin is dirty, but okay, they're tattoos, yes. And whether he is completely bald or not, or there is some hair, there is no hair, I don't know, and it's not a big deal. Duolingo, as well as IELTS and TOEFL, they're interested in your English, not in your eyesight. So let's start, guys. So imagine that we have 90 seconds. They write it at least 30 seconds, but you know it would be a big mistake from you of you to describe for 30 seconds. Minimum 60 seconds. Minimum. Always aim at feasible maximum, something like that. And maximum, if you have 90 seconds, it's a good idea to speak for 90 seconds, not less. So let's start. Like in this picture, yeah, the introduction can be anything. Try please not to reproduce your one and the same introduction to several images. It will not be a good idea, yeah. Like in this picture I can see, and then the next in 5 minutes you have the next picture, and so in this picture I can see. Try to diversify a bit. Try to be creative about this. And remember that most of your score will be given for you not due to this introductory phrase. Because graders are very clever there. They understand that these phrases you can just cram, you can learn by heart with your tutor and shoot them like a parrot, yeah? It's not a good idea. They will assess you by the medium, the core of your speech, which will follow your introduction. So don't worry much about your introduction. Okay, in this monochromatic photo, I can see a man of about, I think, 50 years of age, probably. An interesting feature is that he doesn't have a top of his clothes. He is wearing only pants and some trainers. So he is seated in a very interesting position on some kind of a chair or some other facility, and he's leaning against a stone wall. The overall feeling of this picture is quite gloomy, and probably this man is a prisoner who has conducted some manual work and now he's resting. His body, at least the upper part of his body, which I can see, is covered with tattoos. His head is bald, it seems to me. So the background is formed by this wall, which is made of huge bricks or huge pieces of stone. On the right of the man, I can see some kind of a table with some probably bottle or some container standing on the table. The floor is quite dirty, covered with tiles, I guess. Everything is very dirty and dusty. There are some pieces of white paper, I believe. This man looks very tired or maybe frustrated of his life. On his left wrist he has a watch, probably. Also, just in the right top corner, I don't know whether it's the continuation of the wall or where there is like the gap and there is an entrance to some other premise, I don't know. Overall, this room looks quite dark. I don't know how the illumination is provided. Probably there is some one lamp, or maybe the light penetrates some opening in the roof. Okay, so overall, this picture provokes some gloomy feeling in me. Okay, guys, you see, I have talked about something. If you have some more ideas, you're welcome to put them in the comments. Let's have a look at the next one. Sometimes Duolingo can surprise you with some, we can say, out of the box pictures like this. You see, you cannot understand whether this tree is a real tree or a fake tree, whether it has roots or it doesn't have roots. What's this panel? Yeah, this roof. So whether it's an exhibition or whether it's some, I don't know, some special farm for growing those. Yes, we cannot say for sure. But remember that they are interested in your language. They're not interested in your understanding or guessing of those important facts. That's why Just tell what you see, and that will be it. So what would you talk about in this picture? Yeah, I think that I would talk about, firstly, of course, the tree, you understand, then the foundation, this panel, that it is resting upon some wooden planks, yes. About the roots, honestly speaking, I don't see any roots, or even some remnants of those roots, some rudiments, I don't know. And it looks like even, so this green grass or something, yeah, it doesn't look like soil, you see? So it's very interesting. If there are some roots inside this probably soil, or if it's just a wooden panel and all this tree is such maybe a breed, some such species, or maybe it's an artificial tree. We don't know, yes. So I mean that all these thoughts can shoot in your mind even in 1 second when you only see this picture. And then you decide which path you will take, which strategy you will follow. Okay, let's describe this. So in this photo, I think it's possible to see a very special tree, which looks like a Chinese or a Japanese art. Probably it's a small one, because I know that those guys like to grow like mini trees. At least I don't see any roots here, or at least some rudiments. And this panel, the basis is very special. This tree rests on some kind of a foundation, which doesn't look like soil. I don't know what it is actually. It seems like a solid surface, but I don't know what it is like. In the background, I can see some probably glass panels of the roof, and they're completely transparent. So the light penetrates them and illuminates everything. I think it's an exhibition of some art, tree growing art, tree and bushes and shrubs growing art. The leaves are also very special. They are oriented vertically, but they are small and they are grouped in such clusters, fluffy clusters. The trunk also is just such a curved bent trunks, which looks very chubby and stout. The panel is resting on some wooden planks, and the floor, I cannot say exactly what it is made of. Probably also a wooden floor or a brown painted stone floor, I don't know. On the right, I can see some poles, vertical poles. Maybe it's a support for the roof, probably. Okay, so overall it's a very interesting picture. It looks like an exhibition of exotic tree species. Okay, you see, I have described something. I was speculating along my way, and I was not afraid to make some guesses or... Okay, let's take one more. You understand that if you show interest in the picture, I think it will help you get a higher score, because if you're just mumbling like a robot, yes, without any intonation, the grader has to assess you objectively and to put you something which he considers according to those standards which he or she has been taught. So the more enthusiasm you show while describing something, the higher score you will get. I'm sure of that. Even probably, based on my experience, I can tell you that this enthusiasm and your effort and your desire to speak will gain you several points for sure, even given the same level of vocabulary among several candidates. So the one who expresses his desire to speak, he will get more. Because we are all humans, even if in Duolingo, where they say that, let's say, 70 to 80% of your work is assessed by an algorithm, but they say that, of course, those graders who are very well instructed, they check from time to time, they take part in your assessment. So you understand that where a human is involved, there is always an aspect of subjectivity, and it's normal. Okay, guys, so let's look at this dog. You see, I think that this dog is an example of a picture which is, let's say, not easy to describe, but there are not so many interesting here facts, details, and actions. Yeah? We can see a wet dog, and in the background we can see some muddy, probably water, and on the right we can see something, probably a stone foundation or a wall or some block, and that's all. That's it, yeah? Anyway, we can stretch this beauty for 90 seconds, which I always recommend, because if you want to get a high score. Okay, how would you talk about it? You understand, I always tell you that your mental processes, they will form within 1 or 2, maximum 3 seconds when you see this picture. And then you just produce what your brain has already produced before this. Okay, so let's talk about this dog. So in this photo, I can see a happy dog, a happy wet dog, because probably it has had a bath right now. I cannot say exactly the breed of this, but the hair is quite long. And the dog, I think it's going to shake off the water, or maybe it has already done that. Also, we can see that her tongue is protruding right out of her mouth. Her or his, I don't know whether it's a boy or a girl. The dog probably is approaching the photographer. Probably it's his owner. In the background, I can see water. Whether it's a natural reservoir or like a lake or a river, or maybe it's a pool created by humans, I cannot say. On the one hand, I don't see any those dirty elements in the water. On the other hand, it's not so transparent. The light is reflected from the surface of the water and makes it look like it's as if it's not very transparent, as if it's dirty. Obviously, the dog is very happy. I can even say that I see its front left paw, yeah, but what about the front right paw? Probably it's going to lift it and to give it to its owner. On the right, I can see some probably concrete construction. Maybe it's a wall or something like that. And I see that the sunlight is entering this picture from somewhere from the distance, like from the right top corner. And also a very interesting detail is that the dog has a long tail. Yeah, you see, we don't see even the end of this tail. Yeah, it's very interesting. Okay, and that's it, I think, about this photo. So you see, I have talked about something. If you have ideas, of course, probably we can speak about the shape of the skull of the dog, as the length of its snout or something. But to do this, you really have to have a high level of English, and if you do like this easily, so you can sway at something like 150 Duolingo or even more. And so guys, let's take one more and then we'll finish this lesson. Again, this is, let's say, a medium difficulty picture. I mean, not about the words, but about the action. You see, there is not much action here. Where there is a lot of action, for example, somebody is moving, running, and something jumping, it's easier to describe because you get more psychologically involved in the process. Where there is something static, like this guy is sitting and watching into his probably smartphone, yeah, it's not so. On the other hand, there are a lot of stationary details here, including those pillars and these posters, some chairs, floor, those other barriers, I don't know what they are. So I think we will be able to talk about it for 90 seconds. Remember that your introduction is like important, but not very much, I'm sure. And the end also. Don't be afraid to skip, not to notice the end of the time period, because Duolingo will forgive you that. Like if you don't click here, you will have a button next when you finish. But if you have been so immersed into speaking that you ignored the timer and the system automatically hopped you to the next activity, it's not a big deal. Okay, guys, let's. You remember, we describe what we see. It will give you the highest point. If you're not sure, say probably, I guess, I believe, and I suspect, anything like that. It will be a good idea. Okay, so in this photo, I can see a young man who's sitting on some chair, and he's looking at probably his smartphone or some other small thing which he's holding in his hands. I cannot say for sure. On his right wrist we can see a watch, probably a smart watch. Over his shoulder, like there is a jacket, a dark jacket. Given that this picture is a monochromatic, I cannot tell exactly the color of this jacket and trousers, but they are dark. Probably he's waiting for some canteen or a student cafe to open, because there is a poster. Probably on this poster we can see some menu with some prices, so probably he's waiting. Just he has come prior to the opening of this cafe and he's peacefully waiting. In the background we can see some concrete pillars. I guess the hall itself is quite big, the area is quite big. Probably there are some chairs there. Probably it's a student cafe. Students cafes I have already said, or maybe it's a business center with some kind of a canteen on the first or on the ground floor. By the way, the floor is made of tiles, covered with tiles, and it looks very clean. In the foreground we can see a chair, a very, I think, comfortable chair, combining the bases, wooden bases, frame, and some kind of a leather or artificial leather covering. The man looks in his maybe 30s or 20s, no 20s I think probably he's a student, yeah, or some young employee. Okay, and I think that's it about this picture. So you see guys, I have talked something. I didn't even look at the timer, but I think I was speaking from 1 minute to 1.5 minutes, and I'm sure that Duolingo would give me a decent score for this, over 100 for sure. I don't say that I will get 160 for this, of course, because the accent, the pronunciation, some little slips of the tongue. On the other hand, I know that 99% of you, they don't need more than 120 for Duolingo, or more than 7 for IELTS, or more than, let's say, 95 or 100 for TOEFL. Yeah, that's why you don't have to produce masterpieces. You just have to be natural, enthusiastic, and speak a lot. All those specialists, if you the so-called Duolingo experts, I don't know where they have sprung from, because Duolingo has been popular only for 2 years, but they're experts. So they claim that you should speak a lot. A lot, a lot, a lot. The more you speak, the more you can disclose your ability to produce rich English. Yes, so try to be, please, abundant, maybe even redundant. It's better than to be stiff and taciturn, something like that. Okay guys, if you need professional assistance in your Duolingo preparation, and IELTS and TOEFL also, I invite you to our online sessions. I have helped several hundreds of guys to get very good grades at those tests, including SAT, GMAT, FCE, and so on and so on. I love teaching people and helping them to succeed, and including all those psychological exam aspects, motivational coaching, and all that jazz. Okay guys, I love you, wish you success, and see you in our next video.